Hey, greetings everybody. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about how I actually make beats without samples. Well, first of all, I want to welcome you guys back to the channel again. Thank you for checking out the video. I'm super excited about it today. I already stated the title, as you know, not to make it just too extraordinarily obvious, but I'm really excited about it, you know, because I make beats without samples actually all the time. So if that's something that you might be interested in, the just vaguest amount about making beats, making music, beginning to interpret videos and music, you know, like a long stream of consciousness instead of like just bar by bar, then I think this would be a tremendously good video for you. I'm gonna get into it and talk about different things that have excited me for quite a long time. But first thing that I think helps along the way when you're trying to actually make beats without samples is to, number one, collect a lot of instruments. Collect instruments, just all kinds, things that interest you, whether they're keyboards or in synthesizers, or actually the other direction, 4-track reel-to-reel recorders. All of these different things are going to aid you on the road to creating your sound and making different textures and different palettes, if you will. And I think just collecting instruments is a very general way to just kind of start beginning to create music, because we're endeavoring to create just more than beats, you know what I mean? But we're also trying to like stay away from the samples in this particular regard. Not that those things are bad at all, but I think that your palette will, tremendously be longer if you, excuse me guys, if you just, begin to start that without using those samples. I think that there's going to be various instruments that you'll find along the way that'll kind of really govern your path, so to speak. Whether it be percussion, be it guitars, be it instruments, being just any kind of instrument, just try to collect and get your hands on them. Another thing that I would highly recommend for you in terms of this journey is I would actually try my best to collect a lot of vinyl records. And I mean specifically vinyl records, old LPs, old 45s, old 33s, even 78s if you can get your hands on them. They have more of a rough textured sound because the record plate is a lot harder, and it's kind of like when the vinyl record gets in that groove, it makes more of a harder sound. It's more, it's a harsh sounding sound. It's hard to describe it. I can kind of go get some sounds and we'll talk about it. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear what the texture of a 78 sounds like, and we'll make that happen for you. But I definitely think you should collect a lot of vinyl records with the intention to specifically study the liner notes. And the reason why I say that is because within the liner notes, that's where you will find the history of the instrumentation behind the record. You'll start to, if you haven't already, you'll start to kind of just understand what records and what particular instruments that it is that are actually contributing to that sound that you already know, like, and trust, because it's the music that you enjoy. And so I've had that happen to me over various periods of time, just like the Rhodes that's right here. I love 70s music, and so that's why I definitely had to have a Rhodes. At one point I had 2 Rhodeses, and I had, believe it or not, I had them catacornered, and I played both of them at the same time because it's such a beautiful sound and you can voice them differently. And that's the same thing for my Moog grandmother right here and my Moog subsequent 25, which, I definitely thank Moog for my subsequent 25, and just different horns like you got back here. Can't really see it that well, but I got my mellophone, and I'm endeavoring to get into the future in a little while about going into the past and starting to understand the Tascam reel-to-reel recorders. But I definitely think that without a shadow of a doubt, you should definitely start to collect records. It doesn't matter which records, just try to make sure that they're they have liner notes in them and that you can study them. I mean, it definitely makes sense that you should try to maybe collect records that have music on them that you think you would enjoy for sure. But that can be a definite, you know, quick path for you to begin to go ahead and understand the instruments that you actually would want to collect, because you've got the history, you know, the proof is in the pudding, because these are songs that you love, you know. The last one that I'm thinking, perhaps just for this particular segment, that I think would really help you in terms of beginning to make more tracks without using samples, will be to become aware of your local shops. As you become aware of your local shops, you'll start to notice and you'll start to find different deals. You know, the relationships that you'll build in your local shop will aid you in collecting so many more instruments. You'll hear a variation of different things. You can test them. You can actually hear what they sound like. You can play on them and sample the instruments most of the time, you know, depending on what kind of store it is. But most stores will allow you to test the instruments and hear what they sound like, which all just kind of coupled together give you that awesome experimental time to start to find the sounds that you love, you know, because as you find those sounds that you love, it'll become more fun for you to continue to collect instruments, because you're essentially building yourself your own library of sound. And you know, I honestly think it would make for a very cool film later on to talk about, you know, how to define and find your own sound. But there's just different sounds that lend themselves to the periods of time that you're going to enjoy. You know, whether you like 80s music or 90s kind of synth or pop or funk or R&B or soul or electronica or electronic music, or whether it's deep soulful house music, or whether it's, you know, la banda or mariachi. You can get into all of these different genres, salsa if you name it, you know, just so many different things you can learn to. It's almost like a recipe, you know, for a meal. You can learn to cook your own meals without making microwave dinners if you can actually define for yourself by discovering what the actual ingredients are that are within the actual recipe. So that's what we're doing here. We're trying and we're talking about how we can give our twist and give our own not projection but expression of music that we know, like, and trust, music that we love and things that we want to create and make. But we gotta find first and discover what those particular elements are. And I think that anybody can do this, you know. Do I think that everybody should do it? Not necessarily, you know, because I do think that passion is something that, you know, definitely lends itself to an honest expression instead of more so of a trendy expression, because I do believe that you'll, in the process of studying, find yourself. You will find the way that you want to express yourself in your own body of work. And it's much like a tone of voice, you know, a tonality. You know, there's certain types of ways that you're gonna sound, and there's certain types of things that you're gonna start to say on a regular basis that's gonna be depicted within your own vocabulary of music creation, without, you know, somehow trying to always recut and re-chop something that somebody has already made or done, but not being able to put your own twist into it because it's not an actual creation. And I think that if we all endeavor to try to create from within our own voice, that we will come upon some very authentic, genuine creation. I gotta tell you, you know, the liner notes for myself have been a true gift, you know, to be able to go back and look into a record from years ago that was something that created various beautiful moments in time through school or wherever you were in a moment, whether you were at a cookout, whether you were with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your wife or your husband, or, you know, at a senior dance. You know, it could be anywhere. You know, it could have been at a festival, and you just sort of relate to that song. You relate to that song, and every time you hear it, it just does something beautiful to your spirit. I mean, I know the voices of black people and all kind of people all over the world will forever resonate with the songs of, say, Frankie Beverly and Maze. And they've got to be one of the most legendary bands and groups of all time. You know, when you sit back and listen to them, some people just remember being over the grill and serving and catering to their community and allowing them to hear, you know, these just beautiful vibes. And I think that the liner notes is one thing that helps me to kind of discover and understand a little bit more about the fossils and the tools from the past that kind of help to aid these beautiful artists in creating what it is that we know now today to be amazing historical classics, you know? So I'm really looking forward to the liner notes portion, you know, because that's something that's governed me a lot. I'd like to see from you all who actually takes that route, you know, because it's really fun, you know. It's why you look up sometimes and certain instruments have the hype that they have because somebody played that instrument, you know. And sometimes instruments aren't even maybe the best one, but somebody got an opportunity to create that one unique sound using that instrument, and now for ages it'll be legendary. You know, there's this one instrument, I can't remember the name of it, but it came from like an old school funk song from back in the 70s. It was some type of electronic conga, and the electronic conga made this very unique sound. And you know, if you research it and look it up, you'll find out that instrument, I can't remember it, I think it's an electronic, actually I think it's electronic bongos is what it is, but it's the same sound that is sampled in order to create the beginning or background percussion sound to, it's a Missy Elliott song, Missy, what is that song called? I think it's Super Duper Fly. So yeah, if you check out Super Duper Fly and like research the original sample from Super Duper Fly, it came from this particular electronic bongo instrument. And it's funny because the instrument is actually very, very rare to this day. You can barely find them anywhere. But you know, that's just another note, you know. Forgive me, I digress. But collect instruments. Do research on the liner notes on the instruments that you know, you like and you trust, because you've enjoyed great, fantastic moments to those instruments or through those instruments. And that will govern you along the path on making amazing beats without samples, but in a very unique way. You know, it's more potentially powerful for you to do something that's going to impact you powerfully and makes you feel some type of way than to just kind of generically collect instruments or generically just getting sounds from wherever you may. So, you know, I'll share with you guys maybe like a little piece real quick of something that I make, you know, something that I made. And, you know, without further ado, check this out real quick and then we'll get back to the video. Hey guys, so thanks for checking that out. I appreciate it. I hope you all enjoyed that. Just wanted to kind of give you guys a little sample of, in my opinion, just some ways that I've used those resources that we talked about in order to endeavor to create really awesome things, awesome beats, awesome music, you know, without creating or using, samples, you know. But the next set of things that I think that will really aid you and help you in, you know, in the course of actually making beats without samples, things that I tried myself is to maybe take some time and don't listen to other music. I know that sounds counterintuitive to basically everything that we just talked about, but really what I'm getting at when I'm talking about actually, you know, not listening to anything, any other music, and you know, just take some time away from those things is to kind of help you generate ideas sincerely from within. You know, if you take ideas, you know, from sincerely within, you can still learn, and a great thing is you can learn to grow your own voice. Like we said again, you can grow your own vocabulary and kind of get those, you know, the creativity muscles and exercise those creativity muscles, because, you know, when you were perhaps making beats using, you know, samples and always kind of, you know, kind of becoming dependent on inspiration in order to create, is you're still growing your vocabulary, you know, which is a good thing. It's one reason actually why I respect and I am, you know, a DJ, is because, you know, one thing DJs often might not realize is that when you're filling your mind constantly with a vocabulary of how musical arrangement transpires and how different things come together and how, you know, a chord structure is built, or you're coming up with a vocabulary of chord structures, is you're constantly feeling that, you know, within yourself, and you're constantly becoming more elaborate, and you're constantly learning and becoming aware of other styles. But the thing is you're not really being able to reach inside oneself and grab what it is that you would actually say, you know, because when you don't listen to constant things over and over and over again, you're saying things and developing ways of communicating musically, whether it be notations or whether it's lyricism, or whether it's you know, call and response from one instrument playing one thing and then another instrument is kind of responding back in a different type of way, or perhaps saying something back that's you know, in cohesion with that particular call and response thing. But you get an opportunity to kind of think more. You get an opportunity to, like I said, develop your own personal vocabulary within and with the music. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing that you can endeavor to do. And when you start to construct and continue to construct, and I don't want to, you know, put it out there as if it's something that you don't do, but I think that it really does. It has a way of kind of isolating you within creation to just really sit within yourself and generate an idea, you know. So I think you should definitely, like, maybe take some time and don't listen to other music to just come up with and just come up with music from within. You know, it's such a beautifully special process when you do that. I would say that just, man, just there's something. It's almost like a form of meditation to just give yourself an opportunity to really develop from within, to create a phrase from within, to be sitting in the studio, taking your time and really just like pulling from within yourself what particular melody or what particular counter melody that you want to come up with, or particular bass line, or particular like percussion sounds or drum sounds, you know. Just, if you've ever built tracks using samples, then you've developed a vocabulary from within, and that's something that I think we should all really just reach within and try to just build that vocabulary, your own accent, you know, in your own music. But I also, while I say that, I also would say that you should maybe also do the opposite and listen to your favorite artists and take maybe a favorite bass line and expand it incredibly. That's one thing that I do. I tend to do it often. Sometimes I'll go and I'll get on like Bandcamp or something like that, and I'll go and find, you know, a couple of my favorite artists. I like Knowledge's music is really cool. some of the old classics. I didn't actually do it with this group, but you know, like Diggable Planets is dope. Just think about a particular artist and say that you have a favorite bass line. You could take that bass line and say maybe they don't have a change, you know, like it might just be like this one looped space. And if you can identify that bass line and kind of construct that bass line, maybe instead of constructing that bass line where it's like one layer, you can kind of turn it into a 2-layer bass line or a 3rd-layer bass line. So like, you know, I'll say for example, like if I'm gonna hum, like you could have, I don't know, some people might remember, I think it was Herb Alpert, right? And this is something you can look up if you're not familiar with it. But for example, Herb Alpert's song Rise was a song that was sampled, and it turned it into like a Notorious B.I.G. song called Hypnotize, right? And so the bass line goes boom, 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 be-da, boom, 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 be-da, boom, 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 be-da, boom, boom, boom. And so that portion of the bass line comes like really late into the song Rise by Herb Alpert. But that particular portion just exists as almost like a loop in that particular part of the song. But when I mean like take potentially maybe a favorite bass line and expand it incredibly, is like you could take boom, 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 be-da, boom, 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 be-ba, ba, ba, be-ba, be-ba-da, ba-da, ba, 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 be-da, ba, 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 be-da, do-ba-da, boom, 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 be-da, be-ba-da, ba, be-ba-da, ba, be-ba-da, ba, be-ba-da, ba. You know, and so what I did was I took this piece, it's like getting a 1-layer cake, and that 1 layer only is, you know, it's just vanilla or it's just chocolate, or, you know, maybe they did the red color dye, which is funny because I didn't learn that until like way later on in life, but maybe they took that red color dye and turned that cake into red velvet cake, right? That's what you're doing when you're taking that piece of that sample and then you're playing it. So like take the sample, play that, but then expand it and play another layer, and then expand it and play another layer. So something that we all love and like, and you know, I always talk about knowing, liking, and trusting. But say you like that thing and you've expanded it incredibly. So you've taken something that was beautiful and you facelifted it, you uplifted it, you made it bigger, more expansive, and just more beautiful. Another thing that you could also do is you could also perform the exact opposite and radically minimalize it. You know, nothing's new under the sun, you know, so you can, everything that you can do, you can also do like the counterintuitive portion of that same segment, of that same sample. You know, the way that I took for example, the Herb Alpert bass line, and I expanded that from that 1 layer to that 3-layer example. You could also take something that's already incredibly dynamic and has incredible amount of layers, and honestly that's a lot of times, and most of the times, what people do when they do sample. Because you might take like a jazz track, and when you take that jazz track, you know, it might have, you know, 8 bars worth of the bass line doing these types of different things, and you could like chop and just take portion of like the first bar and a portion of like the second bar, and for example like a portion of the 3rd bar, and now you've chopped this incredibly dynamic, technically you know, deep rhythmic progression on maybe say just the bass line of a sample, and now you've turned this thing into a whole different thing. But you could like radically minimalize it the way that you've done that. And so one other beautiful thing that you can also do when you're not creating with samples is you could actually still sample. I know it sounds crazy, right? But really, you could actually still sample, and what you could do is still chop and still sample in the same way that you chop and you sample, but like chop and sample which is, you know, obviously like it's recontextualizing the instrumentation, right? You're reorganizing the notes. That's what you're doing when you're sampling, right? You're chopping and you're sampling. But what I'm endeavoring you to do after you do that is to, number one, like I said, minimalize it. But like when you minimalize it, like go back and play what you chopped and sampled with an actual instrument. You know what I mean? So like use the sampling as a writing tool. So, you know, you chop and you sample, but then after you got the sample together and you chopped it and you hear what you created from the other sample, from the music, go back. And an easy way you can do it is you could just play what you hear that you've created off of the sample with another instrument. After you've created that with that other instrument, go ahead and delete the sample and just keep your original playing. And I think that's something that could make the process extremely beautiful for you. It's a way that you can, you know, you're creating a beat, you're creating music without actually sampling, but you kind of still are sampling, but you kind of you get a chance to, for lack of better phrases, in the previous examples, if you stayed this far throughout the video, you would know that the previous chapter we were kind of talking about was eliminating the sample. So we can eliminate that sample from underneath the layer, so it's no longer there. We just use it as a creation tool. But I think that those ways could be very beautiful for you in this particular portion of, you know, trying to create a beat, you know, some music while, you know, actually, you know, without actually using samples. I think that those are things that again, you know, these are things that I would actually do, you know, if I were endeavoring to try to embark upon this journey of creating without actually using samples, because I know that we all have a voice inside, and honestly, at the end of the day, that's really what we want to hear, and we want to create music using our own individuality. You know, we're inspired by things, but we actually would like to create more, you know, and bring something new to the earth while still respecting and uplifting what inspired us, you know. So I'll you know, before we just jump into the next chapter really quickly, which is if I'm not mistaken, in the next chapter we'll kind of talk about you know, the first way that I would endeavor to kind of start going about recording, you know, because I don't necessarily just kind of, most of the time I don't just start recording any particular well, I mean, I don't consider, like, I wouldn't like record just any instrument first, because I feel like certain things happen when you go about it in a certain kind of process. And so in the next chapter, you know, I'm gonna talk about what I think you should record first when you're actually recording a beat or making some music without using samples. So stick with me, check out this track real quick. Hope you guys dig it, and we'll get right back into the video. Hey, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just wanted to kind of lay out another quick, cool example of something that I created that basically I used no samples, and I actually made those beats and that music, you know, without the sample. But for this actual current segment, one thing that I wanted to kind of deliver to you and talk to you was about, I alluded to talking about the order in which I think that you should record things. Or, you know, you don't have to do it this way, but let me offer you a different type of way to kind of approach the music making process, especially without samples, because I found that it's served me as being somewhat advantageous, and I'm really proud and happy with the results. You know, music can give you so many different feelings, and I would say that probably the only style of music that wouldn't lend itself to this particular formula or order, if you will, in terms of making beats without actually using samples, would be more atmospheric or more cinematic, kind of like real chill, open format type of music styles. I guess, you know, like the very minimal, like it's more like drone music and things like that, but we don't dig into that because we're actually thinking about beats. So when we think about beats, we're actually thinking about, you know, rhythms and percussion and, you know, drums and bass and snare and different things like that, and different variations thereof. But what I highly kind of recommend for one way that you can go about the order of recording your track without using samples would be to actually really focus on locking in the rhythm first. I think if you lock in the rhythm section first, you'll find that everything else can kind of build around with your beat. You know what I mean? You lock in the rhythm section first, and so if I'm saying lock in the rhythm section first, then hopefully you're asking yourself, you know, what particular, you know, instruments justified or were classified as rhythm instruments, and so I'll give you two, and then I'll give you a third one kind of as a bonus. It's something I think of as a rhythmic instrument that I don't actually think most people may not think of it, but when I tend to kind of explain it to them, I see that people are normally very open and very you know, receptive, and they'll receive this other instrument, you know, family as a rhythmic instrument. And I mean, if you don't, and you have a different, you know, ideology around that concept, then feel free to, you know, let me know. I'd love to know, you know, in terms of what you consider and what things could be, what instrument you think could be applicable in terms of being a rhythmic instrument. But first, let's start off with the bass. Sometimes I wouldn't maybe record bass first, but a lot of times I do record bass first. Bass has a very interesting quality to where it can really help you. It helps people feel when they hear the bass that it's resonating on such a low frequency or a low note or a low volume, or its ability to establish full vibration, especially when played melodically, you know, boom boom beat ba da ba dum boom beat, you know, types of bass lines and rhythms, like rhythmic bass lines, like, because bass is actually considered to be a melodic instrument. You know, it establishes the melody. A lot of times people are able to follow the bass line or hum back to you the bass line, and when they're able to do those types of things, you know, we refer to that as actually being, you know, quite melodic. But if you start off with your bass line, it will kind of help to establish the rhythm first, as opposed to, you know, what we normally would deem to be melodic instruments, which are normally like the lyrics. Normally when an artist is singing, that's typically the melody. You know, people will remember the words, and this particular artist sang this one particular thing, which would be classified as melody. But interestingly enough, I know it kind of seems maybe not counterintuitive, and it could, you know, I don't want to confuse you, but, you know, also don't underestimate your intelligence either. You know, I think you definitely follow me and you understand what I'm saying. But yeah, the bass line, you know, I think the bass line is a great place to start first. And the areas to start, I'm not necessarily saying that you can't mix these up, these three that I'm gonna give you, but I do think that these three, if you kind of start to record with these first, you'll kind of start to see that you're establishing a very like lockable rhythm, like something that, you know, people can, you know, really jam to, they can really bob their head to, and it'll really help them to kind of focus and lock them in. Whereas, you know, there's other music that's very, you know, very like wide and free, and, you know, it's very stretched out is what they would say in jazz. But after the bass line, you know, I would also like say the drums, you know, and you could do the drums first and then the bass second, or vice versa. But I think we've all seen, if you look at a stage, and I'm not saying that this is a particular way that you have to do things, but there's a reason why when you look on stage, and I'm sure you know, and I'm sure you've noticed, you know, if you're a beginner musician, or if you're not a beginner musician, either one's fine, but you can pull up in any shows, and I'm sure you've seen many shows where, if you think about it, I'm sure you can guess what I'm gonna say. The bass guitarist or the bass player or any type of bass character instrument is oftentimes very close to the drum set, or the drummer, or the kick drum, or the trap set, you know, whatever we want to call it, the beat maker, the percussion. They're normally very close together, because when their sounds are married together and they're very locked in, and they're both intuitively moving together, you know, every other piece can kind of just sit on top perfectly. You know, I keep giving this like crazy example about like a layered cake, but if you build that rhythm section on the bottom layer of the cake, it'll always have the ability to be so structural, so, you know, almost like the skeleton system of the song. Then, you know, you can put the muscles on top, or you know, or you can, you know, the skin on top, or you can put the cake, you know, at the bottom, very very sturdy, like in a sturdy fashion, you know, locking in that structure, and it'll be so much more easier to allow the music to be relatable, and then put that icing, you know, on top, those other layers on top, the decorations, the candles on top, the melody can be the you know, the the icing, you know, the accessories on the cake, if you will. The last one that I kind of give to you that I often consider as rhythmic, a part of the rhythm section, that I was saying that maybe people don't consider as such, but they tend to accept later. You know, maybe sometimes I gotta explain it why I feel that way, but I feel like chord progressions lend themselves very well to the rhythm section, because oftentimes the chords are going in between the actual drum set, and you know, you lock that drum in and you playing that drum and everything like that, and then you sit the bass line right on top of that drum set, or whether you know, you're playing bass guitar, you know, or whether you're playing, got tuba over there, or whether you're playing, you know, whatever it is you're playing bass wise, like once you get the drum together and they're on the same page with the bass line, and then you lock in that chord progression, you know, the keys playing, you know, blah, blee, da, da, be, ba, ba, be, ba, da, be, ba. All of those things, they're locking in with the rhythm. You know, the rhythm is like a ruler, if you will. And then all the rest of the music is kind of laying in between the grooves, you know, or like, what's an even better example, you know, because I say like drums and percussion, which is, you know, like bongos, congas, just kind of like accessory. And I don't mean to minimize, excuse me, the percussion when I say that it's kind of an accessory, but they're kind of, you know, the percussion they're those in between kind of drum sounds that add extra rhythm in between the rhythm that the drums are doing. You know, I don't want to instruct you and tell you what these things are unless maybe you don't know about them. I'm not sure if you know about them or not. I just want to kind of, you know, really just explain to you and describe and you know, lend these ideas, because you can do it your way, you know, and I want you to do your way. I'm looking forward to you doing your way, because you know, it's this thing has a free expression, and you know, don't let anybody kind of tell you that you should do it some kind of way. If you're really feeling drawn to approaching and expressing yourself with these tools in a certain type of way, then I definitely would want to encourage you, and I will encourage you, and I'm excited to see, you know, what you come out with, because it's, at the end of the day, it's going to be you, you know what I mean? I just want to lend a few ways that I've approached this thing that have lended well to me feeling from the music that what I was really desirous of feeling, you know. So yeah, you know, the piano chords and just chordal instruments lend themselves very well. I would also say, like, in this particular segment, like, one thing I really wanted to kind of describe to you is I want to encourage you to take the opportunity to embrace all variations of rhythmic instruments. And when I say that, like, embrace, and it's still the same three instruments: bass instruments, drum instruments, and chordal instruments. Chordal meaning can play chords, you know, several notes at the same time, chords. So embrace the bass instruments, whether it's a bass synthesizer, or whether it's a bass guitar, or whether it's a tuba, because it will lend you multiple facets and multiple choices for these type of instruments, because there's different range of instruments, and we're talking about the bass, the drums, the chordal instruments. So those are a few of the bass instruments. Embrace all of them, because they'll give you more sonic sound palette. Secondly, embrace all different forms of drums. Maybe you're working with a sound pack, maybe you're working with drum samples, maybe you're working with a drum set, maybe you're working with field recorded sounds in the wild, you know, out in the world, you know, hitting the side of a door with a stick. You know, embrace all different kind of drum sounds. Then embrace all kind of different chord sounding instruments, whether it's a guitar, whether it's a piano, whether it's plug-in piano. And then the last thing I kind of want to tell you is, and it's the best one, is to empower your own voice. Using your voice recorders. I want you to know that every time I make a track, I'm humming things. You know, I'm humming in my sound recorder bass lines. I'm humming chordal instruments, you know, chords. I'm humming, you know, a particular drum track that I like, and so then I'm back projecting something that I recorded from my own voice, which is helping me to have the ability to continue to make original things, original beats, original music without actually using samples. And you know, and that's something that I really love to do, you know. But I want you to empower your own voice to create these different sounds, and once you do that, you won't ever have to really lend yourself to a sample like ever again if you don't need to. But that's, you know, that's the best that I've got. You know, those are tools and techniques that I use. In the next quick segment, you know, I'll let you hear something else real quick that I've made using these same techniques. But in the next segment, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, you know, kind of just talk to you just a little bit about how I go about another way, just one more way, and we'll be wrapped up. But I'm gonna let you know another way that I endeavor to create a beat or some music without actually using samples. So if you made it this far with me, I really appreciate you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we're gonna get to the next section. See you in a second. Welcome back for the last segment. First of all, I want to thank you guys for checking out, the last track. It was a cool example of ways that I employ the same things that I'm kind of talking to you about in order to, facilitate making great beats, great music without actually using samples, which I think anyone can do. Anyone passionate about this thing can definitely do it and bring it to fruition and create great music that's original from within, that creates your own voice. And so the last thing I kind of want to talk to you about is a special thing that I've been doing myself lately, and I almost want to say that it was somewhat of almost a random occurrence. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I kind of began playing all of these different instruments because at times I really wanted to collaborate. I wanted to collaborate, and I didn't really want to play this instrument, that instrument, and this other instrument, but you'll inevitably have ideas that you want to bring to fruition and be able to, exemplify these particular soundscapes and sonic explorations that you've been hearing. And whether it be at the vinyl records or just different tracks or different shows that you've gone to, you'll hear a sound and then all of a sudden it'll grab you and it'll inspire you. And I wanted to place a sound into one of my productions, and at the time it was just like, man, I kind of couldn't get in contact with anybody, or a lot of people had things to do, and I was very understanding, but I was also kind of upset as well, because when an idea comes to you, you want to, capture that moment, that feeling, and, create it. But what would happen a lot of the times is everybody was constantly busy. So when I wanted to play one thing or call somebody to hear a thing, I'd have to go and save up money and go buy the thing, which was okay with me. But I'm just, I'm endeavoring you as you collect instruments, as you start to hum and empower your own voice, to still allow that space for a great friend or somebody that's passionate on the level with you to join what it is that you are doing. So obviously my last reason, my last way, my last technique that you can actually create beats not using actual samples is to create a little bit, create something, maybe just create and I'll play an example of it before we roll out, because it's going to be the last portion of our video. And so I would ask you, just not ask you, but I would definitely just thank you for making it this far. But one thing that I did is I created and locked in just a very nice, beautiful rhythm section. And how do you know it's beautiful? It's beautiful. I once heard, it might have been Tyler, the Creator, if I'm not mistaken, but I feel like I once heard Tyler, the Creator, talk about creating something that, he knew it was beautiful when he could just play that bad boy on loop, you know what I mean? And it continues to sound new, it continues to sound fresh, it continues to sound inspiring, and I think it's really easy to kind of do something like that if you create it humming, recording, using your own voice. Because if you're out in the world, you're out in the wild, you know what I mean, and you're like recording something, and or we're not even at the recording stage yet. Let's back up. So you're just, you know, I don't know, you're at work, you're doing your job, and all of a sudden you catch yourself just humming something. Bass line's crazy, you know what I mean? Or you like vaguely heard some music in a car that passed you by, and you can't quite hear it, but you're humming what, like you're trying to recreate what you thought you heard because it sounded so beautiful, but you barely heard it. And so you record it into your phone. And what I'm saying is, then you go home and you kind of like record that thing, you know, you label it in your voice recorder. I'm telling my own story, right? You label it in your voice recorder as, you know, fire bass line number 1. And all of a sudden you record it and man, you can hear yourself like humming it over and over again, and then you actually go and record it at home and you got that bass line locked in. And then maybe after that, like I said before, you know, embrace all different kind of drum instrument, or embrace every different kind of bass instrument, or embrace every kind of chordal instrument. And so you got that bass line locked in from, you know, something that you heard at work, and you're humming it, and maybe you minimized it like we said before, or maybe you expanded and made it more dynamic. And so you got this nice bass line going, right? And then all of a sudden you got this like really dope drum loop that you came up with, you know, from these various ways that we talked about earlier in the video. Maybe you you know, maybe you actually took a sample and you actually, you know, used samples, but then maybe you played the drum set and you drummed that bad boy in, and then you went and deleted your sample track. So you use the sampling to actually compose, and then you deleted it. And so now you got this drum and this bass thing grooving, and you got them locked in nice and tight. Everything sounds beautiful. And then all of a sudden you get down on the keyboard and you know, you write down some keys and you write down a chord progression, you write the notes down. And, you know, let me know if you're interested in knowing how I do that, because I do it in a different way. I was inspired by something I heard about the late great photographer Gordon Parks. He actually developed his own writing, his own composition language, and that's something that I did, you know. But anyway, you wrote down that chordal property, and you're playing on your keys, or you're playing on guitar, or playing on, you know, any instrument chordal that makes multiple notes. And so you got these 3 things locked in and you recorded them, but then you start to facilitate and work with relationship. And so for me, it was this brother of mine that I met in college. His name was because he's still alive, but his name is Cliff Haston, and Cliff's nickname at our college was Mouse, so you might hear me refer to him as Mouse. But I created that track with the drums and the bass and the chords, and I sent that track over to Mouse. You know, I bounced it down, I saved the file, and I printed it, you know, aka, you know, saved it and exported it out of my MPCX, which is, well, I used to have MPCX. I was recording on the MPC Live too. And so as I was recording that, I exported, like I said, but then I sent it to myself. You know, I airdropped it from my computer to my phone, and I started listening to it and, you know, really grooving to it. I'm like, okay, like the next thing I'm gonna do after the chordal instruments is I'm gonna start recording, you know, my horns on top. I'm gonna start working on my melody and my counter melody parts. But all of a sudden I remembered that Mouse played saxophone, and I had to work on not operating from that old place of hurt where I wanted to call people and work on tracks and they were all too busy and everything like that. And, you know, I just would encourage you to just not get stuck in a place. If you don't have a lot of friends that record and this, that, and the third, I would say that there definitely become a moment where you're able to connect with an individual that shares the same passion as you do, and they're serious about what they're doing, and they want to bring beautiful things to the world, and the person will actually show up. And so I sent the track to Mouse, and then he sent back this beautiful addition, You know, he facelifted it. He lifted that project up in such a beautiful way by just adding his voice to it. And it's interesting when we talk about it because he'll often tell me, you know, man, like, Pat, like that was something that I just like kind of cooked up in like 10 minutes, you know, like boom, 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 you know, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and that's a thing that I would definitely just try my best to encourage you to do with your music, is to collaborate with someone. You know, it doesn't always have to be like super ultra mega you know, conspired. You know, you don't have to be planning it from the get-go. I would say like stay super embraced in the entire process of each step as you go. You know, make sure that you're in love with every single piece. You know, that's kind of an example that I do with fashion, and when I'm shopping for things, I try my best not to buy anything unless I'm in love with it. Because if you buy things that you're not in love with, then you don't really like it, you know what I mean? You end up with a closet full of options. And you don't want to end up with that type of thing within your closet, within your music, when you're sharing things with the world. You want something that just, man, this feels good. You know, this is great right here. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, this is tight, you know, and you will create something that feels beautiful like that if you make sure you're in the moment while you're taking your time. So take your time, make sure you're in the moment, lock that rhythm section in a beautiful kind of way, and as you're taking your time between the steps of all the different elements that you would want to endeavor to add to while you're creating you know, creating music or creating a particular beat, take the time to see if, you know, you might have a friend that is enjoying it. You know, when I approached Mouse about that song, it was kind of like a audio recording that was on my phone, and I just was like, hey bro, check this out, I hope you enjoy it. I didn't even ask him actually to play anything on it. I think maybe I would have said something like, you know, if you want to record something on it, you know, feel free, you know, but we'd already had the conversation that, you know, we both needed to be better. We both needed to really do what it is that we say we want to be doing, you know, and actually taking action. And so, I mean, I was listening to that track yesterday at the kitchen table while I was having breakfast with my wife, and I just pressed play, and the song, at a certain portion of the song, just started running chills up my ankle and down the back of my neck. It just sounds so beautiful, you know what I mean? So it's really a beautiful thing when you can share something with somebody you trust, someone that you've worked on building a friendship, a brotherhood, you know, type of relationship, or sisterhood or sister type relationship, or maybe it's even your partner, you know, your wife, your husband, your partner. Maybe it's them that you're sharing it with, and you're allowing them to just potentially enjoy it. And when somebody potentially enjoys something, they might have something to say about it, to it, along with it. And I think that if we become a little bit more intimate with the way that we share things, then it's possibly inevitable, right? That we could begin to have beautiful things, you know, very, very beautiful things that can stand the test of time. And it'll feel special to us, you know? Sometimes it's not about whether or not the world really loves or is enjoying something you're making. I've heard Rick Rubin often say that you should create for yourself first, you know, like fall in love with the thing first and create for yourself first, you know, because then you'll absolutely feel like you have a worthwhile gift worth giving to somebody. And while everybody's not going to want to unwrap every single gift, you know what I mean? And every gift's not for everybody, and not every word is for every ear to be heard. I think that if you sincerely love it and you're taking your time with it, that you'll enjoy it. So, you know, without further ado, the track that I was talking about, that Mouse and I were, working on. I'll give you a quick snippet of it. I think that if we keep going this route, that a different album will probably release, because it's really fun, and it's fun making beautiful things at a very lovely pace, and that's something that I love to do, because we got a lot of like fast life content creation going on these days, and while I'm not against it, I'm also not with it, and I like to take my time, but also, don't want to be lazy about it. So, let's create something beautiful, let's create something awesome, and without further ado, check out this track real quick. I'll play it for you guys, and you get a chance, hop on PatrickGregoryDaniels.com and check out some music. But I appreciate y'all for chilling with me. Peace.